So Donald Trump rolled back affirmative action as a concept. It's not a thing anymore. Or, in other words, he protected civil rights and merit-based opportunity by ending illegal DEI. I think this is the thing itself. Ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. Phenomenal stuff. Racism is back! Some might say it never left. What does that even mean? Where do I start with this one? Okay, so you know about a guy called Martin Luther King Jr.? You heard of this guy? You heard about the Civil Rights Act? Okay, so America used to be very, very racist. And then the Civil Rights Act happened. And then legally, it only was very racist rather than very, very racist. Following the Civil Rights Act was the Voting Rights Act. But there was still an issue, folks. Even if you make it illegal to fire a person for being black or Asian or Irish or whatever, there was an issue. And it was the same issue that they had when trying to confront redlining or discriminatory housing or loaning policies from banks. And it was this. What if people are just racist, but don't admit it? Like, what if you have a racist company and the hiring manager and CEO are racist? This was known to happen. And you know, the government says it is illegal to refuse to hire a person because they're black. So what if a black person applies and they're qualified and then you don't hire them because they're black, but then you just say, oh, it's because they weren't qualified? What then? This is where we get affirmative action from. Have you ever thought about what that word means, or that term, I should say, affirmative action? It is a requirement as enforced by the Department of Labor for a company to affirmatively, as in proactively, attempt to combat discrimination. That is to say, it's not enough for them to merely refrain from engaging in overt bigotry. They need to put effort into combating those implicit biases. Now, some people say that affirmative action means race quotas. This has always been a lie. The use of affirmative action to refer to race quotas has always been a right-wing mischaracterization. Race quotas, or gender quotas, or whatever else, and they've been doing this for over half a century, because I think 1965 was when this act was first signed. We have revoked a 1960s era Lyndon B. Johnson executive order. It's a big one. The idea that this refers to race quotas has always been a lie. There are some race quota stipulations that are practiced by certain companies or in certain contexts, but that's not what affirmative action is. Affirmative action is just the Department of Labor trying to hold companies to account on the expectation that they not allow implicit bias or unspoken bias to influence who they hire, to affirmatively act against racism. And it's gone. It's pretty bad. And the media is referring to this as him fighting DEI, which is another capitulation to right-wing messaging. We have knocked back over half a century of progress. Nearly 60 years, we've turned back the clocks. DEI is a contemporary euphemism. What is DEI? It's when black people are in your job. LBJ's order gave the Secretary of Labor the authority to ensure equal opportunity for people of color and women in federal contractors' requirement, hiring, training, and other employment practices. It required federal contractors to refrain from employment discrimination and take affirmative action, hence the term, take affirmative action, to ensure equal opportunity based on race, color, religion, and national creed. Later, they added sex to this. The order came more than a year after Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act and just months after he signed the Voting Rights Act. Yes, critical American history there. It's pretty bad, guys. It's pretty bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It's pretty bad. Of course, this is being framed because we live in like a cucked era of liberal fascism where the Nazis that run the government can't just out and about say what they want, you know? They have to pretend that everything they do that is discriminatory is actually egalitarian, you know? This is what I mean when I say liberal fascism. It's that all the ends are fascist, but the way they push them has to be like framed through, like they're still pretending to like MLK Jr. Great stuff. Let's read the order. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. Long-standing federal civil rights laws protect individual Americans from discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. These civil rights protections serve as bedrock, supporting equality of opportunity for all Americans. As president, I have a solemn duty to ensure that these laws are enforced for the benefit of all Americans. Yet today, roughly 60 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, critical and influential institutions of American society, including the federal government, major corporations, financial institutions, and the medical industry, large commercial airlines, law enforcement agencies, and institutions of higher education have adopted and actively used dangerous, demeaning, and immoral race and sex-based preferences under the guise of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, or, and this we're going to talk about more in the future, they've added another letter to DEI. See, businesses really don't like the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, because they don't like the money that it costs to install an elevator or put like a ramp next to the steps or something. So congratulations, folks. A new letter, and this happened out of nowhere, by the way. Like with no lead up, no culture war incitement, nothing. They've added another letter. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. DEIA. Not as catchy. That can violate the civil rights laws of this nation. Illegal DEI and DEIA policies not only violate the text and spirit of our longstanding federal civil rights laws, they also undermine our national unity as they deny, discredit, and undermine the traditional American values of hard work, excellence, and individual achievement in favor of an unlawful, corrosive, and pernicious identity-based spoil system. I don't need to explain how this is all a lie, right? I don't feel I need to. You should all know. How are these policies illegal? They weren't. They're just lying. That's all there is to it. Just lying. There's no subtlety to it. You know, does the DEI rhetoric even benefit the capital class, or is this just fascist fanaticism? Splitting up the working class and dividing them by their race always benefits the capital class. Always, 100% of the time. It always benefits them. Until it gets in the way of stuff like international trade routes or like worker productivity or something, it benefits them. And they've been doing this forever. Literally for like hundreds and hundreds of years. Not even hundreds. You could argue that this practice goes back as long as human civilization does. That the pharaohs, kings, nobles, whatever, were able to extract greater degrees of control over their, feudal serfs by constantly like reifying and reinforcing the potential threat of a different type of people just over the hill. This goes back. This is as old as it gets, basically. Illegal DEI and DEIA policies, not only, wait, I already got that. Hardworking Americans who deserve a shot at the American dream should not be stigmatized, demeaned, or shut out of opportunities because of their race or sex. I love liberal fascism. These illegal DEI and DEIA policies also threaten the safety of American men, women, and children across the nation by diminishing the importance of individual merit, aptitude, hard work, and determination when selecting people for jobs and services in key sectors of American society, including all levels of government and the medical, aviation, and law enforcement communities. Yet in case after tragic case, the American people have witnessed firsthand the disastrous consequences of illegal, pernicious discrimination that has prioritized how people were born instead of what they were capable of doing. They're referring to black pilots flying Boeing airplanes when the Boeing airplane falls apart or whatever. Don't be stupid. What they mean is they don't like seeing N-words in jobs. That's it. Like that literally every time they have the opportunity to blame a person for being black or a woman or whatever else in a job, they take it. They did it with the firefighters in Los Angeles. They did it with the pilots. Boeing. They did literally every time this happens. This is just like pre-civil rights era racism cropping up. Though they have to frame it here. I'm telling you, man, if these people were in charge of Germany back in the 1930s, they would be passing laws on how, they're seeking equality of opportunity by ending discriminatory practices that favor, non-Gentile hiring or something like that. It's so tucked. They can't just own up to how bigoted they are. The federal government is charged with enforcing our civil rights laws. The purpose of this order is to ensure that it does so by ending illegal preferences and discrimination. Section 2, policy. It is the policy of the United States to protect the civil rights of all Americans and to promote individual initiative, excellence, and hard work. I therefore order all executive departments and agencies to terminate all discriminatory and illegal preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcement actions, consent orders, and requirements. I further order all agencies to enforce our longstanding civil rights laws and to combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities. Notice, by the way, how we were initially talking about the Department of Labor holding standards to certain standards to federal contractors, and now they're mandating the termination of these preferences or policies, even in private corporations. Like, we're no longer talking about what is preferred in federal contractors. Now we're just interfering with private business. Terminating illegal discrimination in the federal government, the following executive actions are hereby revoked. And we get a whole list of them, some of which are from the 60s. The Executive Order 12898 from 1994. 3 days from when I was born. Federal actions to address environmental justice in minority populations and low-income populations. Gone. 13583, establishing a coordinated government-wide initiative to promote diversity and inclusion in the federal workplace. Gone. 13672, further amendments to Executive Order 11478, equal employment opportunity in the federal government, and Executive Order 11246, equal employment opportunity, and the Presidential Memorandum of October 5th, 2016, promoting diversity and inclusion in the national security workforce. Executive Order 11246 from 1965, the Equal Employment Opportunity Executive Order, is hereby revoked. For 90 days from the date of this order, federal contractors may continue to comply with the regulatory scheme in effect on January 20th, 2025. The Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs within the Department of Labor shall immediately cease promoting diversity, holding federal contractors and subcontractors responsible for taking affirmative action, and allowing or encouraging federal contractors and subcontractors to engage in workforce balancing based on race, color, sex, sexual preference, religion, or national origin. In accordance with Executive Order 13279 of December 12, 2002, or the Equal Protection of the Laws for Faith-Based and Community Organizations, the employment, procurement, and contracting practices of federal contractors and subcontractors shall not consider race, color, sex, sexual preference, religion, or national origin in ways that violate the nation's civil rights laws. The head of each agency shall include in every contract or grant award a term requiring the contractual counterparty or grant recipient to agree that its compliance in all respects with all applicable federal anti-discrimination laws is material to the government's payment decisions for purposes of Section 3729B4 of Title 31 U.S. Code, and B, a term requiring such counterparty or recipient to certify that it does not operate any programs promoting DEI that violate any applicable federal anti-discrimination laws. It goes on as such. You get the deal. Anything else here that's meaningfully different? Other actions. Within 120 days of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Education shall jointly issue guidance to all state and local educational agencies that receive federal funds, as well as all institutions of higher education that receive federal grants or participate in the Federal Student Loan Assistance Program under Title IV of Higher Education Act regarding the President's severity, scope. So there you go. Did you talk about how Donald Trump made us all female? That's at least funny. I'll admit I'm finding it difficult to find humor in the situation at the moment. Now, this isn't the revocation of the Civil Rights Act, to be clear. You know, businesses can't just fire you for being black or whatever. What it is a return to okay, you know how in the 1940s black people could vote? But in practice, when they tried to vote, there were a bunch of bullshit laws that were put into place that didn't explicitly say they couldn't vote, but in practice prevent them from voting. Sometimes they were kind of like awkward, like a poll tax. You know, like, oh, you have to pay some money to get here, actually. Or you'd have literacy tests that nobody could pass, but they would only issue them arbitrarily, and they would issue them to black people. If you ever look at one of those old, like, Jim Crow era voting literacy tests, they're not solvable. They're deliberately unsolvable. They're designed in such a way that their answers are unclear. The test taker will always fail you. That was the point. They would only give it to black people. And then you have, like, the grandfather clause, where it's like, you know, oh, you don't have to pass the test or pay the poll tax as long as your grandfather was able to vote at this point in time. And the point in time would have been when no black person could vote. The point is, even if you make explicit discrimination illegal, it is trivially easy for discriminatory people, especially people in power, to just get around it and discriminate against you anyway. And that is what all of this is meant to make possible again. To be clear, it was always possible. Implicit bias, the ability to discriminate against people of color or whatever else, without explicitly saying so, it was always possible. It's going to get a lot more possible. It is now significantly more possible than it was before. Hence the states' rights argument. Yeah, but they don't give a shit about the states' rights. Oh boy. Let me see how much mainstream media is even talking about this. Just a second. CNN Civil Rights Executive Order. As we saw the other day, the mainstream news is not covering a lot of the stuff the Trump administration is doing in like a very obvious, we have been told by the federal government to not cover it kind of way. Let's see. So this is the revocation of a massive landmark executive order from the 1960s. Let's see what CNN has in it. Nothing. Wow, they haven't covered it. That's crazy. We can't see. Oh, sorry about that. We're looking at nothing. Well, that kind of drives the point home, doesn't it? That's crazy. Wow, going all the way back to a day ago. Just no coverage whatsoever on this subject. Not important enough to cover. It's pretty crazy, the degree of censorship here. What about ABC or NBC? They might have it, but don't get it twisted, okay? They are being told not to cover it. Maybe somebody in chat can double check me on this. I have literally just looked up Trump civil rights order affirmative action on YouTube. I don't see anything. I'm getting videos from 7 years ago. That's cool. They really are going to delete my channel soon. Shit. I found it and it's towards the bottom of the article. Okay. So you didn't find it then. You found a giant, like, big archive of the stuff that he passed. And it was down at the bottom. Like, no one's seeing that shit. Absolutely nobody is seeing that shit. It's pretty much only directing to DEI, not affirmative action, which is itself a capitulation to the right because DEI is the contemporary euphemism, not referring to the, like, historical term or what's actually being removed. CNN article calls it DEI. That's right-wing framing. What is DEI and why is it dividing America? That's fantastic, man. That's great coverage of Lyndon B. Johnson's executive order securing affirmative action. The, like, landmark. That's fantastic, man. That's great. They're going to nuke my damn channel for covering it. Even the BBC is calling it DEI. Well, this is a different executive order where all government diversity staff have been put on paid leave with plans to fire them. So everyone in every federal role that works on this, they're putting, they're getting ready to fire them. New York Times is like the only one saying it, right? Yep, the New York Times has an actual article on it. Trump revokes order that banned discrimination in federal hiring. There you go. So the New York Times has it. That's it. Folks, we are in for a rough blank number of years. The Guardian's also using the phrase DEI. They know who's in charge. What's their excuse to not cover this? Have you noticed when you talk to Trump supporters, none of them seem to understand what Trump wants or what he does? Like, every conversation that I have ever had with a Trump supporter that wasn't like an online pundit or something, they never actually know what Project 2025 is, any of the policies he wants to put into action. It's literally all just vibes. Why cover it? They know who's in charge. Google SCOTUS Affirmative Action 2023. Google Vosh covers Supreme Court time period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. What the you implying I don't know? What does this mean for disability accommodations at schools and businesses? Well, as of this moment, not anything yet, but we'll get there, I'm sure. What does this mean for the egg prices? I'm not sure. Anyway, grim, huh? So I should lie about my race and job applications? Yeah, just surprise the shit out of them when you actually get there. Not just the order, but the censorship. Apparently, like TikTok censorship, people are reporting on it extensively at the moment. It's gotten quite bad on blocking anti-Trump content. Okay, genuinely, this is getting insane. Every time I Google any contemporary news, I am no longer getting MSNBC, ABC, CNN, whatever. I am literally in the top story section. I know it's just at the top there, but that's what people see when they Google it. I am no longer seeing any of the major news sites anymore. I'm only seeing smaller ones or ones that cover more specific stuff. Semaphore, The Atlantic, which is based. I'm not getting Google be like that now. No. They're not making articles on it anymore. They're not covering it. Is it a search engine thing? No. The news sites aren't covering it anymore. The major news sites have all completely fallen in line. We can't see what you see. Can you see the CNN YouTube page? Because that's what I'm looking at. Yep, it was rhetorical. Benjamin, don't be naive. It's falling in line. Are they covering it? You can literally go to CNN's homepage. Okay, affirmative action was just revoked as an executive order. A 1960s era civil rights piece of, well, not legislation, but an order was revoked. Musk bashes Trump's AI project. School shooting. Troops to the southern border. White House orders government DEI employees to be placed on leave. Watch the latest CNN headlines. Jamie Dimon on tariffs. Get over it. Tariffs. Cutting home cost. Mercy on immigrants. Immigration app. ICE arrests. ABC. Once again, you are linking to a big list. This is ABC 70. No. Have you tried reading a newspaper like a physical one? Are you being thick on purpose? Do you have any idea what this means? Are you like, I understand that your desire to be contrarian probably like extends beyond your desire to, I don't know, live a happy life. Do you know what this means? Are you being thick? Do you have any idea how limited the range of information most American voters have? Like where they get their information from? Idiots. There is a legitimate possibility that there are going to be news events for which my channel is one of the largest and most widely watched sources of information on it. Do you have any idea how insane that is? This is a deliberate and coordinated effort by the mainstream media to comply with the interests of the current administration and not cover things they don't want covered. That's it. CNN posted this 7 minutes ago. Yeah, in the meantime, we get shit like this. What is DEI and why is it dividing America? That's a great replacement for affirmative action has been revoked. That's enough.